The twin suns of Iran Station rose slowly over the metal towers of the human outpost. The sky above the frontier planet shone in soft gold and pale blue. The station was alive with activity. Cargo shuttles moved between landing pads. Technicians worked on the power lines that fed the research domes. Scientists rushed between laboratories. The entire settlement was preparing for the annual Cultural Exchange Day. Rian was one of the technicians, assigned to keep the power network stable during the event. He was a young man with a practical mind and an easy smile. His work uniform was slightly wrinkled, and his hair was always messy, but people liked him. He could fix things quickly and make people laugh when the work grew heavy. He had spent most of his early life traveling with cargo ships before joining the station crew. That morning, he was helping adjust the lighting around the main plaza where the exchange ceremony would take place. The plaza was a large open circle built of white alloy plates. A tall flagpole rose in the center, and along the sides were banners from dozens of worlds. It was a day when humans and other species came together to share food, stories, and traditions. "Careful with that panel," said Mira, his supervisor. She was older and more serious, but she trusted Rian to finish the job. Rian tightened the last bolt on a power node and gave her a small salute. "All done," he said with a grin. Mira checked the readings on her handheld screen and nodded. "Looks good. The Solari delegation arrives in an hour. Make sure the plaza lights stay balanced. If they flicker again, like last year, we'll all hear complaints from the council." Rian promised he would keep everything steady. He liked Cultural Exchange Day. It was the one time of the year when the quiet station felt alive. There would be colorful fabrics, strange music, sweet-smelling dishes from worlds far away, and friendly crowds. The Solari were one of the most respected alien races in the sector. They were tall, graceful, and calm. Their skin had a soft shimmer like pearls, and their voices carried a musical tone. Humans and Solari had signed peace treaties long ago, and the two species had become trusted partners. This year, the Solari delegation included a family from the High Council. Everyone expected a grand welcome. An hour later, the Solari ship appeared in the sky. It was shaped like a silver wing and landed gently on the platform near the plaza. People gathered along the railings to watch. The station band played a formal tune while officials stood ready to greet the guests. Rian found a place near the plaza's light tower so he could keep an eye on the power lines, but still see the arrival. The Celery family stepped out. There was the elder, a wise counselor named Saren, his partner Lura, and their young daughter Ina. She was about 5 years old in human age, curious and cheerful. Her hair was a soft shade of silver, and her eyes shone like clear water. She wore a simple white tunic decorated with tiny blue beads. The humans cheered as the family walked through the plaza. Ina waved at the crowd with both hands. Rian noticed her enthusiasm and laughed quietly to himself. He had seen diplomats before, but never one so young and excited. After the formal speeches, the real celebration began. Stalls opened around the plaza. Musicians played instruments from different worlds. The air smelled like roasted grain, citrus fruits, and spicy broth. Groups of humans and aliens sat together, sharing food and small gifts. Rian was free to walk around as long as the power remained stable. He strolled through the stalls, trying snacks he had never tasted before. He stopped by a group of Solari performers who created floating shapes with small crystal devices. Ina was among them, laughing as the shapes danced in the air. A small crowd gathered to watch the display. One of the human cooks passed Ina a sugar stick, and she took it with both hands, delighted. She looked at Rian and waved again. Rian raised his hand in return. An older Solari approached him. It was Saren, the counselor. His eyes were calm, but curious. "You work here," Saren said in clear standard. Rian nodded politely. "Yes, technician. I keep the lights on." Saren smiled in his quiet way. "Then you make sure this day is bright for everyone." "That is a good duty." Ina came running to her father's side. She held the sugar stick like a trophy. Then she pointed at Rian. "He made the lights." She asked. "Yes," Saren said. Ina walked right up to Rian. She tilted her head and studied him carefully. Then she raised her hand and said, You are funny. You smile a lot. Rian laughed at her directness. Maybe, he said. Someone has to make this station fun. Ina leaned closer, as if she was thinking of something important. Then she asked, Do you have someone to marry? The question caught Rian by surprise. A few people nearby chuckled. Rian decided to give a playful answer. He knelt slightly, so he was closer to her height, and said, No, I don't. Maybe I'll marry you when you grow up. The people around laughed. Even Saren smiled. Ina clapped her hands as if someone had just given her a precious gift. She looked serious for a moment and said, Then it is a promise. Rian thought it was cute. He laughed again and gave a mock salute. Yes, a promise, he said. The moment passed quickly. The crowd moved on to another performance. Ina ran off to play with other children. Saren returned to speaking with officials. Rian walked away thinking nothing more of it. It was just a joke, a harmless little exchange to make people laugh. The day went on with music and light. As the twin suns sank behind the horizon, the plaza glowed softly under the lights he had fixed. Ina fell asleep in her mother's arms after dancing with a group of human children. Saren gave a short farewell speech. Thanking the station for its hospitality, Rian stood at the edge of the crowd and watched the Solari ship rise into the night sky. He felt a small sense of pride that everything had gone well. The power lines had held steady, the lights had shone bright, and no one had complained. Later, in the quiet of the maintenance bay, Rian and Mira finished their reports. She leaned back in her chair and looked at him with a tired smile. You always talk to everyone, she said. Even counselors and their children. You're going to get into trouble one day. Rian stretched his arms and laughed. I was just being nice. It's good to make people laugh. That little girl was sweet. She actually believed I was going to marry her. Myra shook her head, amused. Solari take words seriously. Be careful with what you say to them. They don't always understand when humans are joking. He waved a hand, dismissing the warning. It was nothing. She'll grow up and forget about it. She's probably already forgotten. Mira did not argue further. She had seen many cultural misunderstandings in her years on the station, but she also knew Rian meant no harm. He was the kind of person who trusted in laughter and goodwill. Before going to sleep that night, Rian looked out of the small window in his bunk room. The stars stretched like silver dust across the black sky. He thought of the Solari ship disappearing into the distance. It was a nice day. He had no idea that the small promise made in a moment of fun would follow him across time and space, far away. On the Celery homeworld, Ina held a small crystal recording of the moment. She had asked the station camera crew to save it. In her culture, such promises were honored. She did not take it as a joke. She took it as a sign of destiny. Her family did not correct her. They believed it was good for a young one to have a goal and a bond. As the years would pass, that promise would shape her path. But Rian knew none of this. He turned off the light in his room, lay down on his bunk, and fell asleep with the hum of the station in the background. Outside, the stars watched in silence. Somewhere among them, a future he could not imagine was already moving toward him. The plaza would be cleaned by morning. The flags would be folded. The laughter of that day would fade into memory. But one memory had been kept, carried in the heart of a young Solari who believed in the power of spoken words. 18 years passed like flowing water through an endless river. The station on Iran was no longer a small research post. It had grown into a busy trade hub where ships from many star systems came and went. The white alloy plaza had been rebuilt twice, the flagpole was taller, and the lighting system had been replaced with a modern grid. Humans lived and worked side by side with many species, including the Solari. Rian was no longer a young technician. He was now chief engineer of the station's power network. His hair was shorter, his voice was firmer, and his hands carried the small marks of years spent fixing machines. He still smiled easily, but there was more weight behind his eyes. He had seen stations lose power in storms, reactors overheat, and trade disputes flare between captains. He had kept everything working when the station needed him. That morning began like many others. Rian walked through the central corridor with a mug of strong tea in his hand. The air smelled faintly of metal and cleaning foam. Workers passed by with tired faces and cheerful greetings. Some recognized him and waved. He checked the power readings on a small tablet as he walked. A young assistant named Tom ran to catch up with him. Tom had only joined the engineering team 6 months earlier. His uniform was crisp, and his boots still made sharp sounds on the floor, Chief Tom said. Dock Control just sent a notice. There's an unscheduled arrival in orbit. They say it's a diplomatic-class ship. Solari origin. It's asking for priority landing clearance. Rian raised an eyebrow. Solari? Priority landing? Did they give any details? Tom shook his head. No message. Just a formal landing request. Rian felt a small spark of curiosity. Solari ships were common, but diplomatic ships always came with advance notice. He finished his tea and handed the mug to a passing service bot. All right, he said. Let's make sure everything is ready. Diplomatic ships expect perfect lighting and clean air. By the time he reached the command deck, the celery ship was already visible on the big screen. It was shaped like a silver wing, elegant and bright against the black of space. The same emblem that had been on the ship long ago glimmered under the station's scanning beams. Rian felt a strange feeling stir in his chest. But he did not know why. The ship glided into the docking bay with perfect precision. It touched down softly on the landing pad, and the airlock lights turned green. A crowd gathered on the balcony above the bay to watch the arrival. Station Commander Yara stood at the front. She was a tall woman with a calm voice and sharp eyes. She wore the formal black uniform of station leadership. We did not get a message about this visit, she said to her team. Stay alert, but show respect. Solari diplomats are important allies. Rian stood a few steps behind her. His job was to make sure the docking systems and environmental controls stayed stable. The airlock opened. A group of Solari escorts walked out first, tall and graceful as always. Behind them came a woman with silver hair and bright blue eyes. She wore a white tunic with blue and gold trim. A thin silver band circled her forehead. Her steps were steady and confident. When she reached the center of the landing platform, she raised her hand in the traditional Solari greeting. I am Ina of House Saren, she said in clear standard. I have come to claim the bond made to me 18 years ago. The entire bay fell silent. Rian froze. His heart thudded in his chest as the memory returned like a wave. A little girl standing in the plaza, holding a sugar stick. Her laughing voice. Her serious words. Then, it is a promise. He had not thought about that day for so many years. He had buried it in the past as a joke from a younger time. But she was here, grown and calm, speaking of a bond. Commander Yara glanced at Rian sharply. Engineer Rian, she said. Do you know what she's talking about? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He felt heat rise in his face. I think I do, he said slowly. It was a long time ago. A cultural exchange day. I made a joke. I said I would marry her when she grew up. I never thought she would remember. Tom, who was standing nearby, tried not to laugh, but failed. A few people whispered to each other. Ina looked directly at Rian. I remembered, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. My people remember promises. Your words were recorded in the Book of Bonds. I have come as tradition commands. The commander raised a hand to quiet the growing chatter. We will move this conversation to the council chamber, she said firmly. This is a diplomatic matter. Inside the council chamber, the atmosphere was serious. Human and Solari representatives sat at a round table. Ina stood with her head held high, showing no sign of doubt. Rian sat opposite her, feeling as if the floor had tilted under his feet. Yara spoke first. Miss Ina, this was a casual exchange between a technician and a child. Human culture does not treat such words as binding promises. Ina listened carefully. I understand that humans may not see promises the same way. But among the Solari, spoken words create a bond of honor. I do not demand. I claim what was given. Rian rubbed the back of his neck. He could still see that little girl in his memory. He had laughed without thinking. He had believed it meant nothing. But to her people, it had meant everything. A celery envoy who stood behind Ina stepped forward. He was older, with calm eyes and long robes. "This is not a demand for control," he said gently. "It is a matter of respect. If a bond is broken without cause, it brings great shame upon our house. It is not about forcing a union. It is about keeping honor between our peoples." Yara leaned back in her chair. "Rian, you are the person at the center of this. Do you wish to respond?" Rian swallowed. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I made that promise as a joke. I thought she would forget. I did not know it would become something so serious." Anna tilted her head slightly. "I never forgot," she said. "I grew up with that promise as part of my life. But I am not here to trap you. If you truly wish to break the bond, I will return home and carry the shame myself. But I hoped you would understand why I came." Her voice was steady, not angry. There was no sign of force in her words. That made it harder for Rian to speak. The council decided to give both parties time to talk privately. The chamber emptied until only Rian and Ina remained. They sat across from each other at the table. The silence stretched between them. Rian finally spoke. "I never meant to make you live with something like this. I thought it was only a joke between a man and a child. I did not understand your people then." Ina looked down at her hands. "I was a child, yes, but I believed in words. My people taught me that a promise shapes the path of the heart. I studied your language, your history, and your world, because I thought one day I would stand here. I did not come to take. I came to share a bond that was given freely." Rian leaned back in his chair. He thought about all the years he had worked here. He thought about the younger version of himself laughing in the plaza. He thought about how easy it was for humans to speak without thinking about the weight of words. Outside the window, the celery ship rested on the docking pad, shining in the station lights. The stars beyond were cold and quiet. Ina spoke again. "I know your world is different. I do not expect you to follow my traditions. But I came because my heart remembers. If you say no, I will not stay. But if you allow it, we can build something new. Not because you must, but because you choose." Her words carried no demand, only quiet strength. Rian was not a diplomat. He was a man who fixed wires and kept stations alive. But in that moment, he understood something. Words mattered. Even words spoken lightly could travel across time and space. The door opened slightly, and Tom peeked in. "Chief," he whispered. "The whole station is talking about this." Rian waved him away. He needed to think. Ina stood. "I will stay for 3 cycles," she said. "If you wish to speak again, I will be at the Solari embassy deck. After that, I will return home with my answer." She bowed politely and left the room. Rian remained sitting alone. The hum of the station filled the silence. He felt as if his past had walked through the airlock and looked him in the eye. That night, Rian walked along the viewing deck. The stars stretched endlessly. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. He remembered the little girl with the sugar stick. He remembered Mira's warning. "Solari, take words seriously." He had thought she would forget. But she had remembered. She had crossed stars to honor a promise he made without thought. The next morning began with a restless air over the station. Word of the celery woman's arrival had spread faster than a solar flare. Crew members whispered in the corridors. Merchants discussed it at their stalls. Even the children in the education wing spoke in excited voices. A promise made long ago had returned to stand at the heart of the station. Rian felt the weight of every glance. As he walked through the main hall, people looked at him not as the chief engineer who had worked for years, but as the man at the center of a strange story. Some smiled with curiosity. Some shook their heads in disbelief. A few even clapped him on the shoulder as if it were something amusing. Rian did not feel amused. When he reached the power control room, his assistant Tom was already waiting. Tom was holding a datapad and trying hard not to grin. "Chief," Tom said, "the entire station is watching you. They say the Solari woman is beautiful and strong. Some are calling this the story of the century. Rion sighed and rubbed his forehead. This is not a story. It is a misunderstanding between two cultures. I made a careless promise, and now it has grown into something too big to ignore. Tom lowered his voice. Do you really think she expects you to marry her? After all this time? Rion stared at the glowing control screens for a long moment before answering. I don't know what she expects, but she crossed the stars to find me. That means something. I cannot treat it like a joke anymore. Later that day, the station council held a formal meeting. Representatives from different departments and alien delegations filled the chamber. Commander Yara sat at the head of the table. Ina arrived with her Solari escorts, wearing a long blue cloak with white patterns across the fabric. She stood tall and calm, not showing any doubt or nervousness. The meeting began with official greetings. Then Yara turned to Ina. You came to claim a bond, she said. This bond was spoken casually 18 years ago. For humans, it holds no legal weight. For your people, it is a matter of honor. We must understand each other clearly. Ina's voice was steady as she replied. I was a child when I heard those words. But my people believe that a promise is a foundation. It can grow with time. It can shape a future. When I came of age, I decided to fulfill the bond. I came not to demand, but to honor. A human council member named Dran leaned forward. He was known for his strong opinions. But he was a young man joking with a child, Dran said. You cannot hold a man to such words. It was nothing serious. Ina looked at him without anger. Your culture may not see it as serious. Mine does, but I do not seek to force him. I seek to keep the bridge between our peoples strong. I want understanding, not control. The Solari envoy stepped forward. He spoke with calm authority. If a bond is broken without cause, it does not lead to war or anger. It leads to a wound in trust. Many humans work among our people. Many Solari live among humans. Our relationship is built on respect. If a public promise is ignored, it weakens that respect. We ask only for the promise to be faced with dignity. Commander Yara turned to Rion. You are the one at the center of this. Do you wish to respond to her? Rion stood slowly. Every pair of eyes in the chamber was fixed on him. He had repaired reactors during power storms. He had faced angry ship captains demanding quick repairs. None of those moments felt as heavy as this one. I remember the day clearly, he said. There was music, food, and laughter. She was a child. I said the words to make people smile. I thought it was nothing. I forgot about it the next day. But she remembered. Her people remembered. And that means my words had weight, even if I did not know it then. I do not want to bring shame to anyone. I do not want this to become a wound between our people. The chamber grew quiet. Even Dran lowered his gaze. Ina spoke again. I came here because I wanted to stand by my bond. I wanted to see the man who spoke those words. I have trained to be part of the Solari diplomatic corps. I have learned human language, history, and customs. I wanted to build a bridge, not break one. A soft murmur passed through the chamber. Many could see her sincerity. She had not come with soldiers or demands. She had come with respect. The council decided that both parties should learn more about each other's customs before any decision was made, Yara announced. For one cycle, Rion and Ina will participate in cultural understanding meetings. This will allow both sides to find a respectful path forward. At the end of the cycle, a final decision will be made in front of both delegations. After the meeting ended, Rion walked through the corridor with Ina beside him. It was the first time they had spoken alone since her arrival. She looked at the walls with quiet interest. The station has changed, she said. When I was a child, it was small and bright. Now it feels older, but strong. Rion nodded. I have spent most of my life here. It has become my home. I did not expect to see you again. Not like this. Ina turned her head toward him. I did not come to surprise you. I came because your words shaped my path. I studied hard because of them. I wanted to meet the man who gave me a promise. It gave me strength. Rion did not know how to reply. He had never thought of himself as someone who shaped another person's life. Over the next few days, they attended cultural exchange meetings together. The first meeting was about human customs. Ina listened carefully as a cultural officer explained how humans often use jokes and light words without deep intent. She asked many questions and took notes on a silver tablet. She seemed eager to understand. The second meeting was about Solari traditions. Rian learned about the Book of Bonds. It was a ceremonial record, where spoken promises were written and stored with great care. Every Solari child was taught that a promise shapes destiny. If a bond is made in public, it is seen as a thread connecting to lives. Breaking such a bond is not treated as a crime, but as a sorrow that touches entire families. Rian felt the weight of what he had done. Not out of guilt, but out of respect for the depth of their tradition. He had spoken carelessly. She had carried those words with faith. During a quiet walk along the station's observation deck, Ina spoke softly. When I was young, people told me I was foolish to believe in a promise from a human. But I never felt it as a chain. I felt it as a light in the distance. I grew up believing that if I followed it, something meaningful would wait for me. Rian leaned against the railing. The stars stretched endlessly outside the glass. I never thought anyone would remember those words, he said. But you did, and I cannot ignore that. I respect what you have done, she smiled gently. Respect is the beginning of understanding. Not every bond ends in union. Some end in friendship. Some end in new paths. But they must be faced with open eyes, not silence. As the cycle continued, the station's atmosphere changed. People stopped whispering behind his back. They started watching the meetings with curiosity and hope. It was no longer just about a joke. It had become a story about two cultures trying to understand each other. During the third week, a debate took place in the public hall. Humans and Solari were allowed to ask questions directly. Some asked Ina why she came so far for a promise made in childhood. She answered honestly, saying she wanted to honor her culture while respecting his. Others asked Rian how he felt about being bound by a joke. He said he was learning to understand the weight of his words. The debate ended with applause. The tension that had filled the station at first began to soften. But one night, Rian sat alone in the power control room. The lights around him blinked softly. The hum of machines filled the silence. He thought of all the years he had spent here, fixing broken circuits and keeping the station alive. He never imagined he would be part of something that reached across stars. He remembered Ina as a little girl waving a sugar stick. He remembered her arrival with calm eyes and steady words. He thought about the path she had taken because of him. Mira, now retired but visiting the station, came to see him. Her hair had turned white, but her sharp gaze was the same. I warned you, Rian, she said with a small smile. Solari take words seriously. But I also told you they value honor. You have a choice to make. Whatever you choose, do it with respect. That is what will matter most. Rian nodded. He understood what she meant. This was no longer about a careless promise. It was about what he would do now. On the last day of the cultural meetings, Ina approached him on the observation deck again. The stars shone bright. Her silver hair caught the light. I will return home tomorrow, she said. The council will meet for the final decision. Whatever you decide, I will accept it. If you choose to keep the bond, we will build something new together. If you choose to end it, I will carry no anger. I only ask that you speak your choice with the same voice you used that day, clear and honest. Rian met her gaze. He had faced storms and reactor failures. None of them felt as heavy as this moment. A decision was coming, one that would not only shape their lives but also ripple through both cultures. The stars outside seemed to wait for his answer. The morning sun cast a pale golden glow across Iran Station. The twin suns' light reflected off the polished metal walkways and the tall towers. The station was alive with the usual morning bustle, but beneath the ordinary activity, an unusual tension lingered. Everyone was aware that the day would bring the final decision regarding the bond between Rian and Ina. Rian woke early in his small quarters. The hum of machinery outside was constant, but today it seemed louder, pressing against his thoughts. He sat on the edge of his bunk and stared at the tablet showing the schedule for the day. The final council meeting would be held at midday. All eyes, human and Solari, would be watching. He felt a mix of anxiety and reflection. 18 years had passed since that playful promise. He had grown as an engineer, a colleague, and a friend to many on the station. Yet he had never considered that a simple joke could carry weight across worlds. Now it had, and he could not treat it lightly. A soft knock came at the door. Tom, his assistant, peeked in with a cautious smile. "Chief, it is almost time. You should prepare." Rian nodded. "I know, I just need a moment." Tom walked in and handed him a small cup of tea. "You have handled storms and emergencies. This is different, but you can do it." Rian smiled faintly. "Thanks, Tom. I hope so." He took the tea and sipped it slowly. His thoughts wandered back to the day of the cultural exchange, to the little girl with silver hair waving a sugar stick, to the words he had spoken without thinking. The memory seemed vivid, almost as if it had happened yesterday. By mid-morning, Rian and Ina met for a private walk along the observation deck. The platform overlooked the docking bays and the vast expanse of space beyond. Ships of many designs floated quietly, reflecting the light of the twin suns. Ina walked beside him in calm silence for a few moments. Her gaze rested on the stars, her posture composed. She seemed to carry a quiet strength, the kind that comes from years of dedication and discipline. Finally, she spoke. "You have time to think today. Do you understand what is at stake?" Rian nodded. "Yes, but it is not just about me. It is about respect, trust, and the bridge between our people. I have learned more about your customs than I ever imagined. I understand that a bond is not just a word. It is a thread that connects lives." Ina turned to look at him. "Then you know why I came?" "I did not come to force anything. I came to offer understanding. My people value choice as well as honor. I only ask that you consider your decision with the same care I have shown." Rian remained quiet, watching the gentle movement of ships below. "I never expected to be part of something like this. I fixed reactors, repaired circuits, and stabilized power grids. I never thought a promise could follow me for so long. But here it is, and I cannot ignore it." Ina nodded. "That is why we must speak honestly. It is not a matter of coercion. It is a matter of trust. We have come to see if trust can continue across differences in culture." Rian took a deep breath. "I understand. I have been thinking about what it means to give words meaning. I have treated words lightly in the past. Today I see how powerful they can be." They walked in silence for a few moments, allowing the hum of the station and the distant light of stars to fill the air between them. Later, they attended the pre-council preparation meeting. The chamber was filled with human and Solari representatives. The Celery envoys offered guidance and clarification, ensuring that both sides understood the meaning of bonds, promises, and respect in each culture. Humans asked questions about the emotional significance and the historical importance of these traditions. Rian listened carefully. Each explanation deepened his understanding. He realized that this was not about pressure or obligation. It was about the integrity of words, the value of trust, and the respect that underlies every relationship between individuals and communities. After the meeting, Rian requested a quiet conversation with Ina. They walked to a side terrace overlooking the station's central plaza. The twin suns cast long shadows across the walkways. "I have thought about what you said," Rian began. "Your words are calm and measured. You do not demand. You show respect for my choice. I have learned about the Book of Bonds and your culture. I understand that this is more than a promise. It is a principle that guides your life." Ina listened intently. "And what have you decided in your heart?" Rian paused. He remembered the years of work, the friends he had made, and the life he had built on the station. He remembered Mira's warning, the laughter of the children during the exchange day, and the small silver-haired girl who had inspired such courage. "I cannot take lightly what you have done," he said slowly. "You carried a bond across stars. You lived with it as a guide. I respect that more than I can express. I need to know if we can build something real, based on understanding, respect, and choice. Not because of duty, but because we both wish to create it. Ina's eyes softened. That is all I ask. I do not seek obligation. I seek honesty. The rest can be built together. They walked a little further in silence, and for the first time, Rian felt a strange peace. He realized that the weight of the past could become a bridge for the future. The promise he had made as a joke could now become a connection founded on understanding and mutual respect. When they returned to the council chamber, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The council members and representatives waited as Rian and Ina entered. Commander Yara gave a subtle nod, signaling that the final discussion could begin. Rian stood at the center of the chamber. Facing the council and Ina, he felt the weight of every gaze. The responsibility not only to himself, but to the honor of both peoples. I have spoken with Miss Ina, he began. I have considered my actions and the meaning of my words. I realize now that words have power, even if they are spoken in jest. I respect the journey she has taken to honor this bond. I understand that it is not only about me, but about the bridge between our cultures. I accept this bond, not because of duty, but because I see the value of trust, respect, and shared understanding. A soft murmur passed through the chamber. Ina looked at him with calm approval. I accept your words, she said. I have never sought to force anything. We will move forward together with honesty and respect. The council observed the exchange in quiet approval. Some human members nodded. The Solari representative smiled softly. The room felt lighter, as if the tension that had weighed on the station for weeks had lifted. Later, Rian and Ina walked through the station plaza together. People passed by and observed them with curiosity and respect. Children waved, as if witnessing a story of honor unfolding before their eyes. The banners of multiple worlds fluttered above, reflecting the sunlight from the twin suns. Rian spoke softly. I never thought a small joke could lead to this, but I see now that every word can carry meaning. Yours carried courage. Mine must carry respect. Ina smiled. That is why I came. Not to claim, but to honor. Not to demand, but to show that words matter. We can now choose how to shape what comes next. They paused at a small fountain in the plaza. Water shimmered in the sunlight, and the sound was soft and calming. Rian realized that a new chapter had begun. A chapter built not on childish promises or careless words, but on understanding, respect, and the conscious choice to build a shared future. Even the station seemed to celebrate. The hum of machinery was steady and strong. Ships floated calmly in the docking bays. People went about their routines, but the story of the bond had left an imprint on their hearts. That evening, Rian stood once more on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Ina joined him, silent and calm. The future is ours to shape, she said quietly. Rian nodded. And it begins with respect, understanding, and the courage to honor words. We will build this together. For the first time in many cycles, Rian felt a sense of peace. A simple joke had grown into a bridge of trust across worlds. What had started in laughter and innocence now held the promise of something enduring. The stars beyond, Oran Station stretched endlessly. Among them, new paths awaited. Together, Rian and Ina would navigate them. Guided by words spoken long ago and the understanding they had built over years of reflection, the day had arrived. Oran Station was unusually vibrant with excitement. Word had spread that the final decision regarding the bond between Rian and Ina would be made public. Humans, Solari, and visitors from other worlds filled the plaza, corridors, and observation decks. Everyone wanted to witness a historic moment. The twin suns shone brightly, casting gold and silver light across the alloy towers. Rian felt a calm tension as he prepared for the council session. He had spent the past cycle learning about Solari culture, discussing human traditions with Ina and reflecting on the meaning of promises. He had come to understand that words, even playful ones, could shape lives across time and space. Tom appeared at his side, carrying a small tea tray. Chief, you look ready. Are you nervous? Rian smiled faintly. A little, but I feel ready in a way I never expected. This is bigger than me, bigger than a joke. Today is about respect and understanding. Tom nodded. You have handled storms and emergencies before. This is just another challenge, but one with a better outcome. You will do fine. By midday, the council chamber was filled with humans and Solari representatives. The walls displayed emblems of unity from both cultures. Commander Yara presided, standing tall with the calm authority that had guided the station for many cycles. Ina entered with her Solari escorts. Her silver hair shone in the sunlight, and her posture was steady. She moved with grace and confidence. Rian stood to greet her, feeling a mixture of respect, admiration, and a hint of nervousness. The chamber quieted as the council prepared to begin. Yara spoke first. Today, we observe the resolution of a bond made many years ago. This bond has been carefully reviewed, discussed, and considered by both parties. We gather to witness understanding, respect, and mutual choice. Rian stepped forward. His eyes met Ina's. She nodded gently, a silent signal that she trusted him to speak honestly. I will speak plainly, Rian began. 18 years ago, I made a promise in jest. I did not know it would carry meaning. I did not realize that my words could influence a life, inspire dedication, and cross the stars. Miss Ina, you carried that promise with courage, faith, and understanding. I have learned from you and from the guidance of your people. I understand that words are more than sounds. They are bridges of trust. A soft murmur passed through the chamber. Council members leaned forward, listening carefully. Rian continued, I accept this bond. Not because of obligation, but because I respect your journey, your dedication, and your belief. I see now that a promise can grow into something meaningful when met with respect and honesty. Together we can build a connection based on understanding, choice, and mutual respect. Ina's eyes softened. She stepped forward and spoke with calm certainty. I accept your words, Rian. I never sought to force a bond. I came to honor a promise and to see if understanding could grow across differences. We have learned from each other. Now we can choose a path together, guided by respect, honesty, and shared values. The chamber was silent for a moment, as if time itself had paused. Then applause broke out from both humans and Solari. Some clapped softly, others more loudly. Council members nodded, smiling at the demonstration of mutual respect and understanding. Outside the chamber, the station's plaza was alive with news of the resolution. People gathered in small groups, discussing the story that had captured attention across the sector. Children laughed and played nearby, inspired by the tale of honor and courage that unfolded before them. Rian and Ina walked together to the observation deck. The twin suns were dipping toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold, orange, and pale blue. Ships moved gracefully through the docking bays, reflecting the sunlight. This feels different from the day you arrived, Rian said quietly. Back then, it was about a promise, a weight I did not understand. Now it feels lighter, yet stronger. I feel like we are beginning something real. Ina smiled softly. That is because we faced it together. Understanding builds strength. Respect builds trust. We do not move forward because of duty alone. We move forward because we choose to honor what we have learned and what we value. Rian nodded, feeling a sense of peace that had eluded him for many cycles. He thought about his life on the station, the friendships he had made, and the lessons he had learned. Every word spoken long ago had led to this moment, and he now knew the value of those words. During the evening, the station held a small celebration. Humans and Solari came together to share food, music, and stories. Musicians from multiple worlds played in harmony, blending Solari flutes with human string instruments. The air was filled with laughter, warmth, and a sense of unity. Rian and Ina joined the gathering. They moved together among the crowd, greeting friends and diplomats. People smiled, offered congratulations, and expressed admiration for the courage it took to honor words across cultures. At one point, a child approached them. The little girl held a tiny flag in her hand. Are you the ones who kept the promise? She asked. Rian crouched down to her level and smiled. Yes, we are, he said. We learned that words are important, and that understanding each other is the first step to trust. Ina nodded. Promises can guide us. They can show us the path. But respect, honesty, and choice make the journey meaningful. The child clapped her hands and ran off, sharing the story with her friends. Rian and Ina exchanged a quiet glance. They understood that their actions had left a mark not only on their own lives, but on the hearts of those who witnessed their journey. Later, they walked back to the observation deck. The twin suns had set, leaving the sky filled with stars. The soft hum of the station's machinery blended with the distant sounds of ships and voices. I never imagined a simple joke could lead to this, Rian said. I never thought words could shape the future across worlds. Ina smiled. It is the nature of words, of choices, and of understanding. We can create meaning from what seems small. We can build bridges where there were none. Today is proof of that. Rian felt a quiet happiness settle in his chest. The fear and tension of the past weeks melted away. He understood that respect and choice were stronger than obligation. Trust was stronger than fear. And words, even playful ones, could lead to extraordinary paths when met with courage and honor. They stood in silence, watching the stars stretch endlessly above. Rian reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A promise made in jest had become a bond of trust, understanding, and shared purpose. He realized that life often carried surprises that no planning or prediction could foresee. The next cycle would bring new challenges, new projects, and new journeys. Yet Rian felt ready. He had learned lessons about words, respect, and choice that no training could teach. And beside him, Ina was more than a reminder of a promise. She was a partner in understanding, a companion for discovery, and a friend who had shaped his view of the universe. At the end of the day, the station quieted. The plaza was empty. The banners still swayed gently in the breeze, and the docking bays reflected the starlight. Rian and Ina remained on the observation deck, looking out at the vastness of space. This is a new beginning, Rian said softly. Ina nodded. Yes, a beginning built on respect, understanding, and shared choice. The future is ours to shape together. Rian smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift and the hope of the future fill his heart. For the first time in many years, he felt that his words, his actions, and his life could align in harmony. The twin suns would rise again tomorrow. Ships would continue to arrive and depart. The station would hum with life. But Rian and Ina knew that the bonds they had honored today would guide them through every new challenge. Together, they had turned a careless joke into a meaningful bridge. They had shown that understanding, respect, and honesty could span worlds. And as they watched the stars in silence, they knew that this was only the beginning of a journey they would take together. Guided by the promises of the past and the choices of the present, the story of the promise spread across the station and beyond. People from other stations and colonies heard of the tale. It became a story of hope, honor, and understanding, reminding everyone that even small words could carry great meaning when met with courage, honesty, and respect. Rian and Ina walked side by side into the night. The lights of Oran Station shimmered softly around them. The stars stretched endlessly overhead. And somewhere in that vast universe, a small promise made 18 years ago had grown into something extraordinary, guiding two lives into a shared future.